Hello everyone, I am Tunahan. I am from SocialPeta. I am the key account manager at SocialPeta, and I'm responsible for Turkey and Israel market at SocialPeta. What we do, we are an intelligence tool. I will give more information about our SocialPeta's work. But today I am going to be sharing about Q3 mobile game marketing insights and trends of popular game genres. We will have lots of data, and my presentation is a little bit long. I will try to summarize everything. First of all, I would like to mention about SocialPeta a little bit, and I will give more information. SocialPeta is an ad intelligence tool, and you can get inspired from your competitors' set data and from global networks, from media and from advertisers. And what SocialPeta does, it provides you 1.2 billion ad creative data. It makes it the best ad intelligence platform around the world with its data, because our data is huge, and we also cover nearly 70 countries and regions around the world. And we collect data from over 70 well-known platforms such as Unity, Facebook, TikTok. And when we check the app advertisers, we cover 5.1 million app advertisers around the world. At the end of my presentation, I will give a little bit more information about SocialPeta. So first of all, we will start insights into global mobile game marketing. So first of all, we will check active advertisers and active ad creatives around the world. So when we check the data, we see that ad creatives are decreasing, but app advertisers are rising around the world. This is our data from Q3. And when we check the data, we can see that there's a decrease in active ad creatives, especially we saw a decrease. We saw an increase. Active creatives has surged since January, but then in August we saw a dramatic decline in active ad creatives. So from this data, we can understand that ad creatives are decreasing, but ad advertisers are rising. The market is more competitive than ever before. So for ad creatives, quality is much more important than quantity. Yeah, of course, there were lots of creatives, but right now we saw a year-over-year decrease, especially in ad creatives, like around 8%, and in ad advertisers we saw a increase around 16.6% year-over-year increase. So in this part, we will check downloads of global mobile gaming apps. Global downloads of mobile games are increasing day by day. This is for certain. I will also mention about active daily users for mobile games. Downloads increased by over 100 million in Q3, as we see from this chart, and year-over-year growth is around 6%, and quarter growth is 2% for downloads of mobile game genres. I will also mention about game genres, specific game genres by downloads, by in-app purchase, and daily active users. So here, this chart is very important. As I mentioned, daily active users are rising. So mobile game marketing is more competitive than ever before. So people are spending a lot of time playing games. And there are lots of factors, especially after the pandemic, and the technology is improving. And we can see more high quality game apps in the market. So for example, if you play one game, it gives you an experience like you are playing from your computer or like you are playing from your console. When we check this data, active users increased by 11% this year-over-year change. And this explains 300 million. But there's also an interesting information here. We can see that most of the users using old games that were released last year, for example, or before last year. And new games, people had lower willingness to download new games. So this explains us that old games are also improving themselves and their retention is very high. So in-app purchase of global mobile game marketing, when we check this data, especially in quarter two this year and in quarter three, there's a big increase, especially in quarterly. Compared to last year, in-app purchase rose sharply, especially in quarter three, by over 8 million. We can say that this was one of the highest growth since the decline in quarter four in last year. So in-app purchase, we can say that we expect that in-app purchase of mobile games will keep increasing, especially next year as well. And here we have some active advertisers and monthly creatives per advertisers is our data. So for sure, there's no doubt that casual games had the highest number of active advertisers around the world. It's expected like 7,200 monthly active advertisers in quarter three. Nearly 80, and when we check this data for casual games, of course, casual games are on the top. After casual games, we see puzzle games, but puzzle games, of course, strategy games were much higher than puzzle games for active advertisers. And for monthly creatives per advertisers, we can see that strategy games were still on the top one game genre by average advertising. So most of the strategy games advertisers are using lots of creatives. They are on the top with 524 monthly creatives per advertising for strategy games. Here we have also another data here. When we check this chart, we can see that there are iOS advertisers accounted for nearly 4%. But when it comes to ad creatives, we can see that 30% of ad creatives are from iOS. This is also an interesting information. There's no doubt that Android users, Android obviously had more creatives than iOS. So for example, when we check this chart, we can see that simulation action games are from Android advertisers. Most of the Android advertisers are from this category. But adventure games, for example, here, they are mostly from iOS. So adventure games advertisers mostly prefer iOS. And Android users mostly prefer simulation action games. So here in this chart, we analyzed video creatives and image creatives. So video creatives are the most popular ones because video creatives convey more messages to users. So it's more effective than image creatives. But this doesn't mean that image creatives are not important. Of course, we saw a small increase in image creatives as well, year over year, like 1%. When we check this data, especially puzzle games advertising are in video format, especially they are on the top puzzle games ad creatives are on video platform. When we check the image creatives here, we see that especially percentage of image creatives in RPGs and card games are very popular. Like people advertisers from RPG and card games are using image creatives as well as video creatives. But for sure, video creatives are the most popular ones, and especially with the increase of internet connection and advertisers use mostly video creatives in their ad creatives. So here we can see that game revenues. We analyze them like this category. So there's an important feature here. For example, there are some game genres like low revenue and fast growth, like adventure games and card games. They are the ones that have the most growing rate year over year. But adventure games and card games didn't generate a very high total revenue, and the two game genres combined accounted for only 13%. Of course, RPG games have the most in-app purchase and revenue, but they tended to have a steady growth rate. Their growth, year-over-year growth, was less than 5%. So adventure games and card games, we can see that they are getting popular. I think sometimes it's hard to change it. Okay. Right now we will check daily active user trends of mobile games by game genre. So when we check this data, action and casual games, old games, high market share, steady growth, had a good momentum of user growth. Especially all game genres had a good growth this year over year, because every game genres daily active users are rising. We can see this chart. And from this chart, we can see casual, action, arcade, simulation, and puzzle games are the fifth most popular game genres. Even though they had a very large user base, they had the fastest growing rate in daily active users. And after that, we can see, but of course, the growths were mostly contributed by the old games in these categories, like action, arcade, puzzle games. In 2022, we can see some popular games like Save the Dodge, Fill the Fridge, Apex Legends Mobile, and they recorded higher growths and deserved more attention, especially in daily active users. So I will mention here in-app purchase. For in-app purchase, there's no doubt that RPG games are always on the top, because even though daily active users of RPG games not are on the top, but their in-app purchase are on the top. People in-app purchase for RPG games are rising, and for in-app purchase of RPG games, recording over 1.7 billion in-app purchase, and it accounts for 25% of all in-app purchase of other game genres. So here we can see that in-app purchase of games are rising, and they are on the top. We can see RPG games. But for casual games, we can also see in-app purchases are rising. I will also mention about casual games in-app purchases. So when we check the top 10 global games by advertising in Q3, we can see on the top Coloring Book on iOS, and we can see Epic Heroes on Android. On Android, Coloring Book is very popular, and they published 4,500 duplicated ad creatives on iOS on the top by advertising. And Epic Heroes and their advertising, their game creatives accounted for 15,000 duplicated on Android this year. And there's also another trend here. So most of the games use casual game elements in their games, like Doghead, and it brought a lot of downloads here. It's a very popular trend as well. So these games, for example, strategy games. In strategy games, we can see simulated life games are the most popular ones. They are played a lot. And there's also a Chinese influence in strategy games. The recently animal-themed SLGs developed by Chinese developers were popular among players. Of course, RPG games are much higher grossing than other game genres. And simulation and casual games, sometimes they are mixed together, and sometimes we can see that many games as the main gameplay in simulation and casual games. Now we will talk about casual game marketing in Q3. So we can say that in casual game category, there were over 11,000 casual game advertisers. Of course, Android contributed twice as many as advertisers as iOS. We can see that casual game advertisers are rising. Year over year change 28%. So casual games are getting popular. Of course, every game genres are increasing, but casual games increase is also interesting here. On Android, we can see percentage of advertisers, and here I think there should be a table here, but we can check here. Average creatives on iOS and Android. On Android, we can see 263. On iOS, we can see 242. Top 10 casual mobile games by advertising in Q3. On iOS, we can see Block Puzzle, and on Android, we can see Sweet Color. So when we check this data, we can see that these games are getting popular. For example, Sweet Color example. This game is getting popular. It's a coloring casual game category. And on iOS, Block Puzzle and Per Rectangle and Sniper games shooter games are also in advertising are very good in these game categories. In casual games, downloads are rising. We mentioned about this. Their downloads rate increased by over 5 million in quarterly, and it was less than 1%. When we check the daily active users of casual games, we can see they were relatively steady compared to the end of the last year when many users were lost. At the end of last year, in 2021 Q4, we saw a dramatic decline in casual game downloads. But right now, we can say that their downloads of trends are steady. Here we will check some countries, some country analysis in daily active users for casual games. We can see that most of the casual games advertisers are from less developed countries. Of course, in America is on the top daily active users, but after America, we can see India, Brazil, Indonesia. In those countries, casual games are very popular for daily active users. So for advertisers, except from America market, they can consider maybe promoting in India, in Brazil, in Indonesia. So for in-app purchase of these countries are also getting very high. And in the long run, casual games are expected to have better performance. And we can see this trend especially in Vietnam, Mexico. In Vietnam, year-over-year change is also very high. So we mentioned about their growth here. Their revenue growth for in-app purchase of casual games are rising. We saw 77% year-over-year growth in casual games, and there are some games casual games that are very popular. And for example, Istanbul guys, we can see this example, and Township. They are very popular in casual game categories to get in-app purchase. And there's also a new game in which recently released in Japan in the SEO, BTC Legends in the SEO. So in-app purchase of casual games are rising. So in the future, we expect that casual games in-app purchase will keep rising. And here we will check in-app purchase trends of casual games. So with this table, we can see that there's no doubt that America is in the top. So most of the casual games advertisers are getting revenue from America, but we also see that in Japan, Germany, UK, there's a big in-app purchase. For example, especially also in the Asian market for casual games, we can see an increase. I also want to mention like South Asia countries like Singapore, Malaysia, and like Latin American countries, Brazil. They saw a very higher revenue, especially revenue growth than European and other regions. So for casual games, game advertisers can consider like markets like South Asia and Brazil, like Latin American countries. So in-app purchase of casual games are rising in those countries. And here I want to give you a success example from Happy Games. This game, maybe most of you may have heard about this game, Survivor.io. It's a great success for especially the usage of games is very great, but they also have a very good marketing strategy. So they are following new trends and they are getting lots of new users. Especially this game is topped the top 15 global versions of Chinese games. Happy is from China, and the game with the great success, the game topped the downloads, revenue, and advertising. So first of all, they promoted their app in iOS. Then they started promoting in Android. They primarily targeted Android platform, and this is a daily creative on iOS and 292, and daily creatives on Android 1020, 229. So they mostly preferred meta platforms such as Facebook, Messenger, Instagram, and most of their creatives were on Instagram. And they mostly choose video creative platforms. 78% of the game's creatives were video. So here, some of the ad creatives they used in their promoting strategy. So for example, the game is like a role play game. You can see lots of bullets in the screens. They showed the game in their ad creatives very perfectly. And they used Gazy Gacha monetization style, Gacha style monetization in their games. And in their ad creatives, they also used real people. So why do they use real people or real life in their ad creatives? Because for users, it's very interesting. It's very engaging. When people see a real life in ad creatives, they correlate real life and the game, and it's very engaging. So what they do is they use real people in the first 3 seconds, and it goes to the video after the real people. So, and they also have some fantastic video creatives in their ads. I wanted to open some of their ad creatives. Normally they were playable, but unfortunately I couldn't. Let me come back. So let me mention about those things. Maybe if we click here, especially, wait, here. Maybe we can click this one, the third one. If there's a feature, or if we can't, I can explain the things. Okay, I will explain. I already explained the real people effect here, and I mentioned about how do they have a great ad creatives that shows how to play the game. And this is some of their ad creatives. Like it's very challenging. They say win a hard game. It is really engaging, and they also give deliberate failure. So when people see deliberate failure, users want to correct the failure. So when you see a failure, it can't be a failure. I will try and I will uh, correct the failure. I will get the success. It's really engaging in ad creatives. And they used this survivor.io used very great ad creative trends in their ad creatives. So with the great usage of game and with the great marketing policy, with the great ad creatives, they got a really good success. Here, when we check the casual games revenue, we can see that most of the top 10 casual games were old games. What we mean when old games? It was the games that released before this year. Uh, Here, some games reported some revenue decline. I think we can't see this in this chart. Normally, it was I could able to see it, but let me explain it. Here we can see an example like Stumble Guys. Stumble Guys recorded a very high in-app purchase revenue. It was, I think, as I remember, 156% of increase. It's a very great in-app purchase. It's a very high percentage. So how did they get this revenue? Especially they updated their game. So there were new effects and there were new skins, and even though it was an old game, in just I think 2 months they got a very good revenue. So when you have a new game, you really have a good strategy to have a good retention, and with a good retention, maybe you can also get a success in in-app purchases. So on SocialPeta, we provide a full report of SocialPeta. After our presentation, if someone needs, I can send our reports, or I can give more information about ad creators. So all of the data is from our SocialPeta report. So let me give you a quick information about SocialPeta. As I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, we cover 1.2 billion advertising data. It's a very huge amount of advertising data, and we cover 5.1 million advertisers around the world. Our data is very updated data. We have an updation system like hour by hour. And when we check this update system, we can see 1.2 million update each day. So when you use SocialPeta platform, you won't only see the ad creatives, you will also see new trends, marketing ideas. And as I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation, we cover over 70 channels and nearly 7 countries and regions worldwide. Our channels are very huge. We provide data from Japan, from Korea, from China, and from global, worldwide, such as Unity, TikTok, Twitter. Uh, it's a very large data. And this is some of our marketing partners and some of our clients. We are a partner of Facebook, Google, Instagram, and we also work with like big games like Tencent Games, NetEase Games, Aliplay, and like Cheetah Mobile, Unity games, like these games. So this is at the end of my presentation. I would like to thank all of you for being here and listening to me. If there's any question, I can answer you now or after our panel, our speak. Maybe we have also booth, SocialPeta booth. I can give you more information about our data, about our SocialPeta platform. If there's any questions, I can take it. Yes, I don't know if you are late or not.
Thank you for the presentation. My question is talking about the creative types.
Yes.
You were comparing videos and static, but why didn't you mention playable ads? I mean, this is
Yes.
much less obvious rather than videos and static.
In fact, when we explained video creatives, we also meant, video creatives accounts also for includes playable ads. Video creatives includes playable ads. Of course, playable ads are also getting popular. In our SocialPeta platform, you can also check your competitors' data, like with playable ads.
Thanks, but I think that it would be more helpful kind of to
Yes,
separate this data.
Separated, of
Yeah.
course. This is a great feedback, and I will take it maybe in our next presentations, in our next reports. We will support, we will give information like playable ads as well. Thank you for the great feedback.